helped Reconstruction more than Andrew Johnson?
Well, he did, but that's not a very, only because no one could have done worse than Andrew Johnson. And if you look at the rankings of American presidents, historians usually put Johnson last at the very bottom as the worst president in American history, and Grant usually goes right there and next to last. The two of them together, unfortunately, at this crucial time in American history, neither person could really step up and do what had to be done. Grant was very slow to respond to the Ku Klux Klan and other radical groups in the South that were using racial violence. He eventually did try to curtail the Klan activity in South Carolina, but it took a long time, and it still was inadequate. And it wasn't just the Klan that was the problem, and he certainly allowed for the biracial governments of the South to just go down, and he didn't really fight for them, and he sort of lost interest, which was shocking because if you look at the votes in 1868, he would have won the presidency without the votes of 500,000 African Americans who'd gotten the right to vote. By 1872, when he won re-election, he got 250,000 more African American votes. You could already see that there's less votes, and you would have thought that Republicans would have been fighting for these votes in the South, but he just didn't want to fight for them.
Wait, so he got fewer votes the second time around?
Yeah, well, because you could see the process of the Klan.
Yeah.
Of the Klan really trying to tamp the votes down, and even in 1872. And so by 1876, the election of 1876, which Grant did not run in, it was just an epic failure on everybody's part, where we had the worst election in American history that never really got settled. We've had many bad ones, but this one, 1876, is the worst because we had 3 states that you just couldn't figure out who the winner was. It was never going to get figured out. There was bulldozing of votes, meaning that literally, Klan-type people would go to African American polling stations and just take all the votes and bulldoze them, essentially throw them away, all of them. But the Republicans were starting to notice that the more they pushed for equal rights, civil rights in the South, the more they were losing white Northern votes, because they'd actually lost the control of Congress in 1874 for the first time since the Civil War. And so Grant and others decided, maybe it's not worth fighting for these free people in the South. And he pulled back. And so between Johnson and Grant, they effectively teamed up together to kill Reconstruction. It wasn't one or the other. It was both of them working together that did it.
Now, why do you think he won re-election in 1872?
He's a war hero. And there was also the very well, in American history at that time, and it was going to last really through the 1900s, it was called waving the bloody shirt. And you just had to remind the American people that these Democrats in the South had caused the Civil War. And so he was the hero, so he was able to capitalize on that. He had a lot of personal popularity. And he did have to get these African American votes in the South, which he got. But fewer than he got in the first time. but it was crucial. Both elections, he relied on these African American votes.
Now, what do you think, besides Reconstruction, what do you think his other biggest mistakes were, too?
Well, the corruption. You had Credit Mobilier, which was just the railroads bribing his administration. Again, he was not personally bribed, but you had the railroads at the time were the most powerful corporations in the country, and they needed the politicians to give them land and give them access, and so this was a scheme that Grant should have figured out what was going on, but never really did. And there's the whiskey ring, another sort of corrupt group of cronies that he had. And so it wasn't any one thing; it was the two things together that just really, and they were in the second part of the second term, which is usually the downfall for most American presidents, is that second term, and it was for him. And maybe he was just disengaged, or just knew that he was going to be done with politics. Who knows? But those are the two things. And the thing that for me though was the signing of the Mine Act of 1872, which is still the law of the land that allows all of our natural resources out west. But that I don't really want to blame Grant, but it's so funny that law still allows a lot of our mineral resources out west to be taken for almost no money. And just that's the kind of administration that Grant ran. That was very friendly to big business and not so friendly to the average person, which was very surprising because Grant certainly knew what it was like to be humbled and to need help from people because he was a total failure as a civilian before the Civil War. There's no doubt. It's funny almost, really. I've never seen another American president as down and out as he was. You couldn't point me. The only